to another video presented by Raven Expeditions. Please subscribe to my channel and like and share this video to support my work. Tutankhamun, the name synonymous with ancient Egypt, the most famous pharaoh of them all. But who really was Tutankhamun? We are told that Tutankhamun ascended to the throne when he was 8 or 9 years old. His life was cut short only 10 years later, dying at the young age of 18 or 19. He was one of the last pharaohs of the 18th dynasty during the New Kingdom in Egypt, reigning between 1333 and 1323 BC. When Howard Carter discovered his tomb in 1922, little was known about the Boy King, as he came to be known later. Following Carter's impressive discovery of Tutankhamun's almost intact tomb in the Valley of the Kings in Luxor, Egypt, the world was swept by hysteria, giving rise to Tutmania, as the treasure trove in his tomb became known to the outside world. At the time, the life and death of this obscure and minor pharaoh were unknown to most. Today, 100 years later, we know a little more than we did a century ago, but we still cannot claim to know everything about this young pharaoh. We can say that King Tut suffered a fate worse than death. He was forgotten. This was a blow to ancient Egyptians, whose main goal in the afterlife was immortality. One of the reasons why Tutankhamun was hardly known to the modern world was because his legacy was largely suppressed by his successors, and his name was chiseled out or not included at all in subsequent kings' lists, while his monuments were usurped primarily by one of his successors, Parentage. When Tutankhamun was born, his name was Tutankhaten, which means the living image of Aten. It is believed that he was born during the time when the religious capital of Egypt had been relocated from Thebes, modern-day Luxor, to Akhetaten, modern-day Amarna, the city built by the controversial and heretic king Akhenaten, who had abolished the old gods that had dominated Egypt's religion for millennia in favor of the sun disk, the one god, the Aten. Upon the death of Akhenaten, the dead pharaoh's new religion was quickly cast aside, and the Amun priesthood reinstated the old gods. It is said that one of Tutankhaten's decisions when he took the throne was changing his name to Tutankhamun, thus honoring once again the god Amun. In fact, the meaning of Tutankhamun is the living image of Amun. He further restored the temples, images, personnel, and privileges of the old gods. Most importantly, he restored Thebes as Egypt's religious center. As regards Tutankhamun's parentage, we are still not entirely certain, even to this day. DNA results from Tutankhamun's mummy demonstrate that he shares very close characteristics with the mummy that was discovered in KV 55 in the Valley of the Kings. Some scholars identify these remains as those of Smenkhare, who is believed to have been co-regent with Pharaoh Akhenaten during the last years of his reign. Others suggest that the mummy may actually be Akhenaten himself. We are thus unsure whether the KV 55 mummy is that of Smenkhare or Akhenaten. Those who believe that it is Smenkhare emphasize that this is a young person, too young to be Tutankhamun's father. Genetic testing further found that Tutankhamun was the grandson of the great pharaoh Amenhotep III, father of Akhenaten. So he is almost certainly the son of Akhenaten. However, the quintessential question is, who does the mummy in KV 55 belong to? If it is Menkaure, then where is Akhenaten's mummy? And since Tutankhamun and the KV-55 mummy share certain close characteristics, if the KV-55 mummy is in fact Smenkhare, what relation did this individual have to Tutankhamun? Uncle? Brother? Half-brother? These are questions which we still cannot answer, at least until the identity of the KV-55 mummy is determined with absolute certainty. It was indeed after the death of Smenkhare that Tutankhamun became pharaoh. He was not the direct successor of Akhenaten. It is possible that two intervening pharaohs ruled Egypt before the 8 or 9-year-old prince took the throne, Nefer-Neferuaten and Smenkhare. This is however unclear, since there are claims that Nefer-Neferuaten and Smenkhare could have been the same person. The interlude between the death of Akhenaten and Tutankhamun's succession to the throne is rather hazy at best, and Egyptologists have long debated Akhenaten's immediate successors. Be it as it may, upon becoming king, Tutankhamun ruled over Upper and Lower Egypt and took the throne name Neb-Keferure, that translates into Lord of the Manifestations of Ra. He married Akhenaten's third daughter, Ankhesenpaaten, whose name was later changed to Ankhesenamun. DNA tests revealed that she was Tutankhamun's half-sister. In fact, their only 2 daughters were stillborn, believed to be the result of their incestuous coupling. 2 tiny coffins containing their mummified fetuses were found in Tutankhamun's tomb. Since Tutankhamun was very young when he became pharaoh, he was surrounded by advisors who, in most probability, took all the decisions for him since he was too young to understand and decide on affairs of state. His chief advisors were Ai, who became pharaoh upon the death of Tutankhamun, and the army general Horemheb, who succeeded Ai, becoming the last pharaoh of the 18th dynasty. Back to Tutankhamun's parentage, the identity of his mother is as mysterious and inconclusive as that of his father. What we know is that according to DNA results published in 2010, his parents were brother and sister. 2 female mummies found in 1898 in a side chamber in KV-35, the tomb of Amenhotep II in the Valley of the Kings, have given rise to some speculation about the identity of King Tut's mother. The 2 females were referred to as the Elder Lady and the Younger Lady. Since then, the Elder Lady was identified as Queen T, the great royal wife of Amenhotep III and grandmother of Tutankhamun. The controversy still remains about the identity of the Younger Lady, whose mummy is badly damaged. CT scans on the mummy suggest that the serious injury on the left side of her face was most likely inflicted before mummification, with some scholars even claiming that the lethal wound was inflicted prior to her death. Although the Younger Lady is not named, she is believed to be King Tut's mother and daughter of Amenhotep III and Queen T. According to Zahi Hawass, it is unlikely that either of Akhenaten's known wives, Nefertiti or Kia, was Tutankhamun's mother, as there seems to be no evidence that shows that either of the 2 was Akhenaten's sister. However, in 2003, Egyptologist Joanne Fletcher suggested that the Younger Lady is Nefertiti herself, since the mummy has several characteristics showing that it is Nefertiti. Nonetheless, several Egyptologists dismissed Fletcher's claims, particularly Zahi Hawass. Yet, 10 years later, in 2013, Egyptologist Mark Gabold corroborated Fletcher's claims that Nefertiti is the Younger Lady, adding that she is King Tut's biological mother. Of late, there has been talk again that the Younger Lady could actually be Nefertiti. So if the Younger Lady is King Tut's mother, and if it transpires that the Younger Lady is actually Nefertiti, then we could conclude that Nefertiti is Tutankhamun's mother. Nevertheless, until the identity of the Younger Lady is established, this remains but a hypothesis. Will we find out one day who Tutankhamun's parents really are? What we can tell with certainty is that Tutankhamun suffered from several physical ailments despite his youth. He was tall but physically frail, with a cleft palate, a curved spine, and a crippling bone disease in his clubbed left foot. Some bones in the toes were dying from a degenerative disease. Researchers have identified this as Kohler's disease or bone necrosis. This explains why his tomb contained around 130 walking sticks. In fact, he is the only pharaoh known to have been depicted seated while engaged in physical activities like archery. It is often claimed that traditional common inbreeding within the Egyptian royal family could have contributed to Tutankhamun's poor health and early death. CT scans of the mummy demonstrate that King Tut had an infected broken left leg, while DNA from his mummy revealed evidence of multiple malaria infections, specifically malaria tropica, the deadliest form of malaria, thus weakening his immune system. All of this could have contributed to his early demise. Despite speculations about the possibility of murder, particularly at the hands of his aging advisor Ai, who eventually succeeded him to the throne, the tests revealed that the hole in the back of the skull that many Egyptologists had considered as evidence of assassination was made during mummification and was not the cause of death. Tutankhamun's mummy still rests in his tomb in the Valley of the Kings, where millions have gazed in awe upon this young boy who ruled Egypt over 3,300 years ago. He is in fact the only pharaoh whose mummy still lies in his tomb. Some might agree with me that, despite that the tomb is the smallest and the least decorated in the Valley of the Kings, visiting this tomb instills a different feeling than when inside the others. I feel a deep connection with this young pharaoh, who, despite lacking all the grandeur and extravagance of the likes of Ramses the Great, captivates me like no other. Most of the treasures found in KV62 have been housed for many years in the Museum of Archaeology in Tahrir Square, Cairo. The Golden Death Mask alone has captivated millions, mesmerizing them with its incredible beauty and exquisite artistry. The collection is currently being gradually moved to the Grand Egyptian Museum, abbreviated to GEM, in Giza. Once GEM opens its doors to the public, we will be able to see the full collection for the first time since the discovery of the tomb. 5,398 objects cluttered KV62, and all that glittered was gold. Ancient Egyptians went to their grave with one wish: to become immortal. Say my name, and I shall live. Tutankhamun, once an obscure pharaoh, has become a household name, and is now the most famous pharaoh of all. His name resounds all over the world. He has become the icon of Egypt, of its glorious history. Nonetheless, despite what we have learned so far about Tutankhamun, there is still much that we're yet to find out. Our research on the Boy King thus continues.